Since the so-called Negro community has shocked the white man by resisting all efforts to divide us, I think that you and I should continue to shock him by staying and working together in unity. Despite religious, political, economic, or educational or social differences, let us remember that we are not brutalized because we're Baptists. We're not brutalized because we're Methodists. We're not brutalized because we're Muslims. We're not brutalized because we're Catholic. We're brutalized because we are black people in America.
It's a backstory on what you guys are about to see right now. Is it's going to be an organic conversation, but we curated a topic for you guys, and it's called "Who Taught You to Hate Yourself?" And I got my guy on here, man. If TikTok had um like a family lineage, right? You could say you got your cousins over here, you got your mama over here, you got your daddy over here. This would be my older brother. I feel like he has a old soul, man. And not any malice at all, man. Like he got so much information, so much game. He from the good place of Maryland, man. Y'all know it's a lot of black excellence out there. And this my guy, man. KD, what's going on, man? What's going
I'm
on,
good.
brother?
I'm good, bro, man. I appreciate the introduction, man. As ecstatic as you are to have me, man, as excited as I am to be here, man. It's like I really appreciate you giving me the platform and the opportunity to run my mouth because I mean anybody that knows me knows that I can do it for days on end. So I appreciate you, bro. It's always love between you and I.
No, I appreciate you, bro. I asked you for the blessing. You came through. We been in like it's a lot of people that I ask and it's some kind of excuse, but you came through. You stood on your word, and I
Yeah,
appreciate that, man. That's like love, man, for real, bro. Yep.
yeah, I mean, a man is only as valuable as his word, man. If I can't stand there and do, the things that I say I'm going to do, it's like, there's no reason to trust or believe anything else I say.
So look, we're gonna go to these slides, man. I want you to give yourself the introduction. Mine was cool, but yours would be better. I know it is. Who is KD? Who is
Oh,
KD?
man. Well, I mean, KD, is, a 43-year-old black man, born to two black parents, in 1979, the rise of the crack epidemic. Has been through a lot in life. It has seen a lot in life and has experienced, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of traumatic events, that brings me to um, what it is that you currently see before you. It was a lot of mistakes made, in order to get here, and I anticipate there'll be a lot more mistakes made. As I said before, is that regardless of what it is that we think we know, in terms of what it is that we have the capability or the possibility to know, it's still going to be a relatively small. So I'm always a student. That's just it with me, man. It's like I'm highly passionate about history. I'm highly passionate about my people. And how to ensure a more meaningful existence for us and for civilization in the future. I mean, at the bottom of it, man, I'm just another black man that's deeply passionate, and in love with all black people.
Man. And you know what? I want you to plug your TikTok and all of that after this, but me watching you on TikTok, bro, is like I said, is looking at it like it seemed like I'm in the house with my grandma slash grandfather, but everything that they told me up to this point in life has come to pass in truth, in fact. It's like the things that you talk about, you got history going on. I ain't even trying to be funny, bro. When I first, you skeptic at first because you don't know who you dealing
Sure,
with. So you
sure.
go back and then you research, and I'm like, damn, okay, he right the first time. All right. I look at another video, I go research that. Okay, again, everything, every video, isn't it? You not out here capping, you telling it, and it's like you freestyling what you know, and but you so all the information is factual information. It's nothing that you made up or nothing. So we
Yeah, cause
came to
see,
the. Go ahead.
no, my bad to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, you good, bro? We these people
Yeah,
they waiting for the game to get unleashed. They like, I know
yeah,
he the pit bull. They waiting for you to come off the chain with it. Not
yeah.
yet, y'all.
No,
Not yet.
nah. See, that's the thing, man. With what we got going on is that I understand that a lot of the things that I say may seem controversial, man, or even far left field. But we've been indoctrinated to a system, that's taught us for so long that we come from certain things, and if a lie is told long enough, ultimately it becomes the truth, right? So, what it is that I plan to do, or what I attempt to do with everybody is feed them information and recipe, right? Digestible pieces. So in doing that, it's like, and I don't want to save everyone. I don't have a desire to save everyone, just someone, right? And in doing that, it's like my purest intent is to spark a level of curiosity in people to do exactly what it is that you did when you heard me initially. It's because I don't want anybody to take my word for it. It's like what we lack in our community today is the availability to see past what makes us feel good and ultimately find what the real truth is. So when I spark that curiosity in anybody, the intent isn't for you to believe me, but to go research for yourself and finding it and studying and in researching, we realize that we start to create new pathways and start to exercise neuro receptors that start to become the building blocks of what creative thinking really is. And that's just what it is with me. It's like I don't necessarily believe that at the end of the day we need a leader, but we need to be shown the way. And if, I've been shown, a level of information that's helped me along my path, it's my obligation and my honor to show everybody else because at the end of the day, iron sharpens iron, and the weakest link of my chain, is only as strong as I'll be. So it's my eternal mission to find that weak link and strengthen it. And in doing so, strengthen myself and then strengthening us.
Word, word. Um, so you got a brand. Well, hold on. You a trucker also too, though, right?
I'm a trucker, bro. It's what I love to do. I've been in trucks since I was 23, so that makes almost 19 years now. I'm close to 8 million miles, 0% preventative accidents. I've been in every state in the country, man. I'm local now, but when I originally started, it was OTR where I used to transport paper rolls and sugar out of Baltimore, into Tillamook, Oregon, or Tillamook, Oregon, and then drive up into Seattle and Fort Bend, Washington, grab lumber, run that down into Los Angeles, and into Texas. But the crazy thing about me starting trucking right is that when I first started crisscrossing the country, bro, I didn't even have a license. I was working with a friend of mine, and we started this company, man, called Alliance Moving Company. And at first, I was just in a regular box, now CDL vehicle, man, doing local residential moves. And the guy came to me one day and was like, "Yo, I'm contemplating buying a tractor. Would you be interested in driving it?" I was like, I'm money motivated, bro. It's like all you gotta do, is tell me what the dollars look like, and I'm with it always, right? And
Word.
he was like, bet. So like a week later, we went out to like Baltimore used truck center, man, and I got a 1994 international pro. Was it an Eagle? It was like an Eagle Pro Sleeper with an M14 Cummins engine in it, man. And I absolutely love that truck, man. A 78-inch sleeper, but for the first like 3 weeks, it was like I didn't even have a learner. I was pretty much just driving around the city in this truck, until I learned the gear patterns. And I called him and told him that I had it. So I went up, took my learners. Another 2 weeks after that, he told me that the trailer was ready down in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and it was a brand new 53-foot Kentucky trailer, with the basketball
Mm.
floor. The basketball floors, like pine wood floors and
Wood
everything, brand
floors,
new.
yeah.
Yeah, so I took with me and my learners. I drove to Murfreesboro, Tennessee from Maryland using a trucker, road trucker atlas, you know, the one with the red dots in it to show you where the weigh stations were. And
Yeah.
like I used that, and as soon as I seen a weigh station about to come up, because I was on learners and a legal driver, I would jump off onto the business route. You know what I'm saying? Backside that chicken coop, man, and then jump back on the highway until I got to my destination. And I did that for like 3 to 4 months, right before I finally, decided that it was time for me to get a real license, and went into Allstate Driving Center or whatever, Allstate Driving Career Center or whatever, to get my actual hard license. And I spent 2 days in the class, and a guy named Griff, passed me out of the class on the third day because he said that I had already acquired so much
Experience.
experience that
Yeah.
there was no reason for me to actually, sit in the class and waste time. So they pretty much gave me a license out the door and was like, go ahead on about your way. But yeah, it's like I've been in California and in Oregon, like all across the country without an actual driver's license with learning duck and way stations. But that's where all my experience comes from, man. Being on some of those hairpin turns out in Lavelle Overpass, Wyoming, and running into a snow on a 6% upgrade, losing traction and backsliding down a hill. But at the end of the day, man, trucking is something that it pretty much saved my life. And it's like I won't lie, I was a guy that didn't have many options coming from where I was coming. Impoverished community. I had made so many bad decisions growing up. Whether it been involving myself in the street trade and narcotics, or even just, broke people, crimes, breaking and entering, getting, all types of things. I got myself in a lot of trouble, when I was younger. And it just took me to realize that every single time I got in trouble, I had to reset my life and start over before I realized I had to find something that would sustain me. You know what I'm saying? And I'd always knew that driving was a passion of mine because I used to deal with the box caprices and things like that, and it was always a place of solitude where I'd get behind that wheel, and just find myself at peace, and it give me something else to think about outside of my day-to-day issues, which is what trucking does for me now. Being a single dad, it's like I'm constantly overburdened with something, right? But when I get in that truck, making sure that I'm being safe, what's going on a quarter mile ahead of me, what's going on the sides of me, what's going on with my clearance, those things tend to divert my focus away from my own problems and into the safety aspects of that truck. So I find myself more relaxed behind the wheel of a truck than I do sitting in a lazy boy.
No, that's I can empathize with that story because it's the same thing, bro. It's like all over America, like all over this damn country, bro. It's this like you find somebody that has the same damn story, like trucking to save my life, or rap, or but we not on entertainment. We on like this really saved my life. It's a trade that I can carry with me, from when I started to when I croak out. You know what I'm saying? Till I get
Right,
old
right.
and don't want to do it anymore. And the thing is, they could take everything from you, but you always got the know how and experience to drive a semi. So you always valuable in a well needed economy, well needed industry.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's a
I
fact. And in a society of consumerism, man, based in capitalism, people always need things. You know what I'm saying? And if those things come off a train or a plane, then they have to be distributed locally by a truck. And that's the one thing that I understand. I remember having this doctor walk up to me one time, and he was like, "Man, you drive a truck." He was like, "Your license is as good as a PhD and more resilient, more reliable than." Probably any, job endeavor that you could take on, because in the event that all systems collapse, trucks will still be needed to haul trash. Trucks will still be needed to bring in, commerce in order to feed people. I mean, in worst case scenario, in the darkest situation, trucks will be needed to haul bodies out.
mm,
And that's the one thing that I understood is that, if I put myself in position to, you know, operate, something that couldn't be shut down, then in a sense I've solidified, my financial ability to provide a resource to my son and to myself. And That's what it was always really about, getting something that nobody could take away. Because as much trouble as I can get in, it's like they can never take my license away. If a company doesn't like anything I say on this platform and they fire me tomorrow morning, I'll be in somebody else's truck.
Yep.
So that's the one thing. That's the one thing that I realized. It's like you can't take my license away from me. It's like I'm the only one that can really screw this up. So that's just what it was, man. Trucking saved my life.
Damn. Yeah, that's hard right there. So I'm thinking like you got other stuff going on too, bro. You got clothing, your shirt. You got this website. Tell us about that, man. What is divisi concuri mean? What does that mean?
All right, divisi concere means divide and conquer, right? And it gets given to everybody, in a Haitian Creole dialect because we like to pay homage to the insurrection or the revolt when Haiti won its independence in 1804, taking on one of the strongest militaries of the world at that time. So we pay homage to Haiti, by using their language and naming our company Divide and Conquer, which the VZ Conquer means. We realized, as I said before, that a lot of the influencer culture, that we produce, we don't really sit on the heads of, and we don't gain the capital resources from, the fashions that we put out into the world. And that was just our entire drive, man, to kind of keep some of the funds that are spent on high end quality clothing in our own neighborhoods in order to empower ourselves, which is why, like, if I work in a sweatshirt that says DKFC, which is the Divisi Concari Fight Club. And what we recognize is that, you know, say like Nike, for instance, they had a fight club. But what we also recognize is that in order for it to be a fight, you've got to have some type of competition. Other than that, you're just bullying people, which is why we came up with our own midsummer to the fight club and saying that, listen, if you're going to charge people $200, $300 for, this tech suit, well, look at this because I'm producing the same exact thing, but at a higher quality. We use an 80/20 cotton blend or whatever, but we charge half the price of it. And this is something that we decided to do for the community because we recognize again that the amount of money that was being sent out of our community to empower, other enterprises that at the end of the day really didn't do anything for our neighborhoods when, we were crying outside of giving us, feel good commercials and things like that was something that had to be addressed. And because I'm such, an addict of a lot of the master teachers and of history, it was said that, people that are dependent on other people to clothe, shelter, or feed them would always be subservient to their people. And that's why we took on the mission of being able to put, our people in clothing, high quality clothing at a cost that wouldn't drain their pockets and send them out into the streets doing things to jeopardize their safety. So, we tell everybody it's like, if you're cold and you need, yeah, something to put on your back, there's no reason to buy something like that when I could cut the cost for you. You can put this on your back, and in turn, this money will still be circulated around your neighborhood in order to help out one of your sisters or one of your brothers. Because a lot of the things that we produce, or specifically me, I do have a partner, and he's my blood cousin and my best friend, and a lot of the things that you see people wearing aren't even things that they buy. It's things that, people reach out and was like, yo, man, I really like that, but, my funds is this and that. And I'm just like, yo, what's your address? We've had,
That's
a
real.
couple educators, in the states reach out to us in times of crisis. Like, they were building a school in Ghana in 2020, but their funds were so depleted they couldn't get the uniforms for the students and things like that. So out of our own pocket, we went ahead and produced 500, uniforms for boys and girls, some dresses, some pants, and all with polo shirts, and we stuffed them in a backpack, that just had our company logo on it and said, from the VZ with love. And we sent it over there free of charge, and when, the Texas power grid went down, out of our own pockets, we helped feed 3 or 4 different single moms, and I had kind of found them on social media where they were crying about, not having the resources, how people were attempting to exploit them sexually, in order to get, food for grandchildren and things like that. And it was just like, yo, what's your cash app? And that's the whole thing. It's like, if we are building industries, we've got to remove ourselves from the idea of being solely independent and individual and, the advancement of us. And that's the ultimate motive for us, man, is to be an avenue in order to empower everybody, which is why I said earlier that as much as I'd love to see you in one of my jackets or a t-shirt, I prefer to see you in one of my corner office making a meaningful living for yourself and contributing to this company. That way we can expand and kind of push these people out of our culture.
Word, word. Damn. Yeah, that's deep, man. I ain't hear that. I don't think you told me that story with the sending the uniforms over to Ghana, man. That's
Yeah,
one place.
I I don't, because what we do is like it's like acts of humanitarianism. It shouldn't be used to propel, your social media platform to stardom or to gain likes or anything like that. It's like I don't want any sympathy for the things that it is that I do, and I think anytime you try to highlight things that you doing positive, you know what I'm saying, it's for your own individualistic beliefs. And at the end of the day, the things that I do for people, they make me feel good. So I cherish it and I hold on to it without sharing it and embarrassing anybody else. But I mean, it's quite a few things I do, man. Since the start of the Flint water crisis, every month there's a deduction that comes out of my personal savings account, that buys a half truckload of water, goes to the AME Baptist Church up there and it's distributed. And I've never said anything about it because it's not important enough for me to mention what it is that I do for us, for people to like me. It's like if you do, you do. If you don't, I'm fine with that also.
But I think by you saying that, and right now, somebody that's seeing it, they know what kind of vibe that it. You're not. Oh yeah, I did. You saying it in a, kind of, a humbling tone and a humbling way. So it's like, a humbling demeanor. So it's like people need to hear this, bro. I think a lot of people, such as yourself and other people, they kind of get themselves a lot less credit than what they deserve. But that's the humble part in it. Like, yeah, I did this, but that's big, bro. A lot of people don't.
Well,
You said it. You said it yourself. They say things to up, kind of put the attention on them to get more likes, get more views, get more, like, they bigging up they self, when in all actuality, like what you said, like the in the humble tone, like, yeah, and I did this and the third. So yeah, man, big up, bro. You
right.
you gotta big
Yeah.
yourself up sometimes, man.
Yeah, and it's not that I don't, you know what I'm saying, and I reject, you know what I'm saying, the term humble, you know what I'm saying, because I'm not a humble person at all. When we start looking at book definitions of words, and labels that have been laid on us, you know what I'm saying, ultimately words have power over us. And when we start looking at words like humble, which means to value yourself less or to see yourself as less than, it's like that's not a word that I prescribe to any of us, you know what I'm saying? While you might be, more reserved in, your celebrations of self, it's like humble isn't a word that I'd attribute to any of us because again, with words having so much power and us not understanding book definitions of certain words, it's like we've got to get out of laying spells on each other that, ultimately at the end of the day weaken us as a group of people. It's like I don't see you as humble at all. I see you as a reserved king, and that's just what it is. Like I'm not a humble person. It's like I'm more than confident in myself, and given the need to pronunciate or to, articulate exactly how confident it is I am in myself. Sometimes it comes off as conceit, and that isn't a problem of mine. That's the problem of the person that perceives it as being something negative. I don't have an issue with that. I think all people should have a supreme level of confidence in yourself by, having this level of belief in yourself. You also have to hold yourself, or you're forced to hold yourself to a higher standard. When you start holding yourself to those standards, ultimately you get a change in action that has to coincide with that belief. And that's just like, the N word, that we use with each other. It's like if I continuously use that N word, then that's all I expect out of you, N word activity. But if I call you king or if I call you brother, I expect respectable, you know what I'm saying, activities out of you. And that's just what it
Exactly.
is. We got to understand how even the English language in itself, and it's a book of spells, in the words that we use and then labels that we lay on ourselves is sometimes, really, really detrimental to the subconscious beliefs and actions of us.
So now, all right, I'm getting that out. I like that. I like your analogy of that. So now I got to. I can't say humble. I'm not saying humble no more. This is what I'm saying. Say that one more time. I'm saying that I'm reserving my
No, I mean,
royalty as a king,
yeah,
right?
that's it, man. It's just like you're more reserved and laid back. There's no need to always, proclaim how great you are. You know what I'm saying? It's like to run around
Yeah,
and say that I'm this great, you know what I'm saying, means that you aren't really great. You are. Greatness is a title that's attributed to the people that witnesses your actions and they label you that, sort of like a leader. It's like I never call myself a leader. It's the people that believe in me, and see my actions that call me a leader. But at the end of the day, I'm just a person that follows suit, follows line, and I'm following behind a group of people that have laid down a set of instructions for me. So I'm a follower just like everybody else. I'm just a little further along in that journey.
yeah. Damn, that's raw. That's raw, man. Um, so we talked about anything else you want to tell us about your brand, bro? You said what it meant. Um, what's the website?
The website is www.divizie, Divizie, Concari, Konkeri.com. We can be found under that same spelling on Instagram at Divizie Concari. Um, The website is up and active. Everything that we have in inventory or everything that's listed on that site is in my inventory currently. We don't do pre-sales. We don't do wholesales. And what I mean by pre-sales is taking people's money in order to produce offers that have people sitting around waiting for months in order to get their profit. I mean, their product. And it's like we don't do that because at the end of the day, we believe that that is, in a sense, robbing people because when I want a fresh outfit, I want it immediately. And by the time I get it off of a pre-sale, it's no longer something that I want. It ends up in the closet. So, if you see it on the website, it's in my inventory right now. If you ordered it tonight, it'd be shipped out tomorrow morning and it'd be on its way to you within the week. That's just it with us, man. It's like we pride ourselves in quality. So, anything that we produce is of the highest quality material that you can get for that specific item. If there's anything or any manufacturing malfunction that you find in it, it's like we take it back, free of charge, pay for shipping for you to return it, and then we send you back one out a free one with a return on your money. So in a sense, if you find something that we've effed up on, it's like we give you your money back, and then we send you back one that is, manufactured perfectly, free of cost, no
Yeah.
shipping included.
It's some dope stuff on there too, y'all. Man, when y'all look at this, when y'all go on the website, talk about those jackets that you got, bro, on there. Like, I like the Black Panther jacket because it just resemble a lot of of us as far as the culture. But it's some other
Right.
things on there too, also,
Right.
bro.
Right. Well, the Black Panther jacket, man, is more so of a jacket of inclusion and a unity called jacket, man. I think anytime you see that Panther Power logo on the back of it, you automatically know what it is and you attribute it to the struggles of, black people in the late 50s through the 60s and 70s all the way up until now. And, it gives you something to hold on to be really prideful about. It's a 100% calf leather sleeve, a calf wool body, full embroidered patch, and it's an heirloom jacket, man. That I believe that the cost, you know what I'm saying, it's bananas because when you find a jacket that quality without any patchwork on it at all in an American manufacturing company, it could cost you anywhere from $400 to $500. But we kept it, to just that $200 or whatever, and that's just what it is with all of our clothes. And we've also got, a full wool body varsity Tuskegee jacket with Tuskegee red tails, military spec insignia on the back. We've got their bomb runs down the sleeve and a couple of their other jet insignias on the right sleeve with a full silk satin lining in red that offsets the blue, and it's a dope
It's
jacket,
hard.
man.
Yeah.
It's a dope jacket. I've had some actual Tuskegee. airmen or, actually come up to me and told me how much they love the jacket. I've actually given one to the son of a Tuskegee fighter and said when his dad seen it, he almost cried because it was so
Authentic.
spot on. Yeah, it was so spot on and authentic that it just brought back so many memories for him that he was like he just couldn't believe the level of quality and the level of detail that was put in the jacket. And that's just what it is. We've got also like a three-quarter length field Parker, which is basically a field military jacket. All of our things are kind of situated around sports or military, but the DZ Contrary field Parker has that same Tuskegee insignia on the back with, a couple other logos that you'll find on it. The Red Tails, and then you'll find the Flying Hornets on there, the 369th Tank Division insignia is on there, and it's basically just a full-time military jacket that also has like a silk paisley lining in like a burnt orange or goldish color, and it's just a real dope jacket. It's really fashionable, and it transcends trends. It's like we don't really get into any of those gangster teddy bears on T-shirts or anything like that. It's just like we just make really, really adult clothing. Really historically accurate clothing and clothing that, regardless if you put it on in 1950 or if you put it on in the year 2075, it'll still have relevance and it'll still fit into a specific style. It'll still have a meaning behind it. So that's just what it is with us. It's like we just try to transcend time with the things that we produce.
Yeah, it's some definitely some dope items on there, man. I'm definitely gonna get that Black Panther. I want that Black Panther jacket, but I want that Tuskegee Airman. I swear I thought I saw one with Mansa Musa.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know
yeah. And
why I keep saying that, bro. Like,
well, because I told you, bro, that the Mansa Musa that you seen, the only thing that I have on with King Musa, man, is a pair of boxer briefs with the Hajj travel map on it
the
when he
map.
left. Yeah, when he left Mali and traveled to Mecca, and I mean, I think most of us know the story now about the holy Hajj that he made, en route to Mecca when he gave out so much gold that he actually devalued, gold, through the whole European and North African continent, so much so that on his way back from Mecca and Medina, he had to get a loan from the Prince of Europe in order to keep his 50,000 man convoy alive until he made it back to Mali. So I mean, it's just a dope, inspirational, pair of boxer briefs, man. Really quality made, and they were put out there to kind of rival some of the other, boxer brief companies, So that's just what it is, man. We just look to put out a real high quality brand, a piece of material, with a really affordable price. Because at the end of the day, I think that Black Power has to be, kind of centralized around, financial literacy and financial empowerment in order to create generational wealth. Because all things, on this planet under the system is capitalism is a global system. And if we understand that, then we understand that everything is for sale, but everything is also to be bought, including land, countries, governments. And if we were to retain our funds, and start diverting them into things that were more productive and more tangible for us, we see ourselves start to rise as a group of people as opposed to being smashed down to the lower levels of the human totem pole. And that's just what it is with us, man. Group empowerment and group power.
Yeah, yeah. So you said I'm gonna skip around a little bit because I had it, and I knew it was gonna get like this, man. I had a slide on
Yeah.
number 8, um, and you talked about how to leave, like, create generational wealth.
Hmm.
So, my question is, and first, before I give you the question, or before I ask the question, you told me about a story on we was on live, and you told me about a story, bro, and it was when I got off the live, it was down there like probably what 3 a.m. or something like that when we
It was
talked.
like it was like it was like 4:30 in the morning.
So it's 4 in the morning, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I ended the live, boop. So I'm laid back. I said, damn, this brother told me about about your son and how he's 13 and how you making him invest. So It's like, and then you teaching them. Rather, I'm sorry, teaching them. So my
Well, we're
question,
learning at the same time.
yep, learning, and like teaching them or stuff that we supposed to do as parents that we never really talk about. Everybody sit around and congregate about where the majority, the best clothes, the best movie, taking the kids to Walt Disney World. But you actually, you teaching your son how to build generational wealth, how to keep it, and how to make the money work for itself.
Right.
Give us a little bit of that story, bro, so people can kind of get like this is these are the conversations that we need to be having with our kids, man. Not the damn TikTok twerk, none of that crazy stuff. TikTok viral, YouTube viral, none of that, man. Y'all need to listen to this man when he tell y'all this story, man, and just kind of grasp the idea of how to kind of work your way into showing your kids how to invest or just getting them into investing.
All right. Well, what was said that night was pretty much this: is that us as Black people, we have to start seeing our money and our dollars as not the end game, but yet another tool, to empower ourselves. And every dollar that you make should be seen as an employee that you send back out into the world to start working for you in order to free up time for you. So if I save or if I trade an hour of my life, for 35 bucks, and that 35 bucks should be able to create a situation for me that I never have to spend another hour of my life to make that same 35 bucks, because at the end of the day, if I go and spend 2 hours of my life behind the wheel of a truck and make 50 bucks, and then I take that 50 bucks and go buy a polo t-shirt, what I've effectively done is traded 2 hours of my life for a shirt. But if I were to take that 50 bucks and to stick it into an investment account, that guarantees a dividend at the end of, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, however it pays out, I'm now receiving, a residual income or passive income off of money that I've already put into an investment account, and my time continues to create, passive income for me. That way I never have to trade more time of my life in order to make that original 50 bucks. And as long as that 50 bucks is stuck inside of that investment account, it'll continuously generate a dividend, so much so that at one point or at some point, I'll be able to use the dividends in order to buy that polo shirt that I originally wanted while still maintaining the time that I've traded for and that 50 bucks inside of a market that will always work for me as long as I never pull it outside of the market. So at the end of the day, what I tell my son is that if you really want to be free, and we've got to redefine what freedom is, because it has nothing to do with money at all. The only unsustainable or unreclaimable resource on this planet is time. Once we spend it, there's nothing that we can do to get it back. And it was said that a billionaire was on his deathbed, and he asked him exactly how much of this are you willing to trade in order to have one more hour of life? And he told her, I'd give it all up. But at that point, it was already too late. And then that you realize that once you trade an hour of your life for anything, you better make sure it's worth that hour of your life, because there's no reclaiming that hour. But you can do multiple things in order to make a dollar over and over again. So I tell my son that once you get money, if you truly want to be free, try and strategize ways in order to solve problems of people's of others, and you can monetize, what I'm saying, that struggle, the solving of that problem, in order to remove people from struggle. And once you do that, you've effectively created, a company and an enterprise for yourself. But also understand that in investing, it's like there are people that don't get up under, the stipulations of somebody else's time clock or somebody else's orders of you to come in and create their industries, their business or their enterprise or empires while they're vacationing in Waikiki, you're sitting in the office. So if you can grasp the concept of allocating money to appropriate funds, effectively what you've done is created a residual income. And what that means is that your dollars are working for you even when you are asleep, which means that when you wake up, you don't have to spend time of your life in order to run around and build somebody else's empire to secure the resources that you need that are necessary to sustain life on this planet. And that's what real freedom is. And if you can at least try to understand what I'm teaching you at 13. By the time you're 26, not only would you have freed yourself, but you could also teach this to multiple other people and free them also. And that's the secret of millionaires and billionaires on this planet, is to not work hard at all, but to work really, really smart and efficiently and employ people that don't want to do that same thing to do the grunt work for you.
Yeah. I feel like America is like they give us the wrong. They give it in their defense. They say this the right way to go through life is go to school to go to college to get a good job to secure a good job. But after it's all said and done, you owe these people money. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Now you working for them for the rest of your life, damn near. You're not even paying off the interest. With some of these degrees, it's
Right.
like some of these people go to school to secure a degree to work for somebody just to pay that interest off on the loan that they got for school, man, is not right. But what you said is perfect, bro. It's the perfect way.
Right.
You need to be teaching yourself some life skills before you go to high school or while you in high school. I'm sorry, and you'll be able to be out of the rat race. You wouldn't even be in the rat race. You'll be
Hmm.
looking from the outside. You know, you'll be looking. You know, 20. You know, looking at looking at the economy in a bird's eye view. Now, you can see why they say most millionaires didn't even graduate high school. We
Facts.
see why they didn't, because they already
That's facts.
had the game. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
fact. That's fact. A diploma or associate's or a bachelor's degree is like that only means something to consumers, right? That as an employer, right? Nobody ever asked me what level of high school or what college, you know what I'm saying, I attained in order to create this company. I own the company. If you do, I'll fire you for questioning my intellect, right? I'm only asking you what level you've achieved to make sure that I've got the most efficient worker, to put inside of my company to produce more for me. See, something happened to us that we don't really recognize, you know what I'm saying, and the ending of slavery, moving into Reconstruction, where we were sent into plantations in order to work for sums of money in order to secure capital. It was called Reconstruction for a month for a reason, right? The reconstructing of slavery wasn't the abolishment of slavery. What happened is the federal government came in and they removed privatized enslavement of people, right? And it took over all groups of people. Black people were removed from the belief that they were owned by masters, right? And the borders of the plantation was expanded nationwide in a sense. You see what I'm saying? So during slavery, certain things were allocated to, the imprisoned person: healthcare, clothing, food, shelter. This is what most of us go to work for nowadays, right? Since they start taking fruit trees off the street corners, you can't even go pick an orange off the corner anymore because they removed them, which forces you to have to go work for a corporate plantation. Your corporations are plantations now, right? Where we're bound by a 40/40 that requires us to go into work every single day, right? And spend portions of our time and portions of our life to secure money in order to secure the resources. At the end of the week, I'm given a paycheck. That paycheck pays for the same things that they gave us during slavery: food, shelter, clothing, health care. There might be a little bit left over, but there was a little bit left over for the slave also that allowed them to go out and decompose, you know what I'm saying, alcohol, tobacco. This was available to the slave, during Reconstruction also, where they would go away and drink away the stresses of the weekend and prepare themselves to go back to that corporate plantation in the following week. And like that's just what we don't understand is like under a system of capitalism, they've removed slavery from being on the backs of just black people, and they pretty much placed it onto the backs of all people. We are all debt slaves nowadays. We are all slaves to keeping up with the Joneses. And at the end of the 40/40 work week, you know what I'm saying? It's like we don't have anything left to have, the appropriate amount of time to sit and think about ways to escape the system. And this is why they keep us in that rat race. Like, oh, go get a Mercedes Benz. Oh, get some Nikes. Oh, go get this. Because as long as I'm chasing those things, I'm never really focusing on how to get myself out of this system. And that's what it is. The slave always, wanted to acquire more things, you know, that is the man next to him didn't have, because the more that I had as opposed to this man right here made me seem like I was doing better than him. And that's what we keep up with right now, the rat race that keeps us in debt to American consumerism and capitalism, and that is slavery in itself because none of us have a choice but to work. You know, you choose homelessness or you choose to work in order to survive and get the resources that the earth at one point provided to us all free of charge. But somebody took control of the earth and said, now you have to pay to live in a house. You have to pay to eat fruit. You have to pay to drink water. And these are all things that are given to us by the Creator. So it was
That's
just it was
go ahead.
reconstructed. That's all. That's all it was. You know what I'm saying? It's like none of us escaped the plantation. They just expanded the borders and said now you have freedom of movement, provided you have this movement sheet or this passport that allows you to port in different people's passages in order to exchange, you know, or trade resources, you know, or in the form of currency to that government or to that plantation. You know what I'm saying? You can't leave the American plantation without having a passport. And in doing so, now I know that you're going over there and you're going to spend some of this hard-earned American money with some of the, you know, on that European resort or that British resort that's in Jamaica or whatever it is. And that's just all it is. A passport is nothing more than a slave freedom paper that allows you a provision to leave your plantation for a allotted amount of time. In the event you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing as a slave, you'll be locked up and you'll be extradited back to your plantation.
And you know what's crazy, bro? The stipulations that they have on you be not being able to get your passport is child support.
Yeah,
You owe the government some money, a big
you're an
amount of
unruly
money.
slave, right? Yeah,
Who do that apply to though, bro? That it only applies to us. You know what I'm saying? It's
right.
some you might have some other cultures that's behind on child support, but it's like we the ones who can't really. It's a lot of us like, bro. Why you? Let's go to Africa. Let's go to Jamaica. Like, oh man, I ain't got my passport. Like, why the hell you? Why you ain't got your passport? Barely got his license. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Well, I mean, once you understand one thing is that even if we wanted to leave America, it'd be a fight, right? Because as much as we believe that the white people of the American country don't like us, more specifically, you know, the capitalists, you know, liberals and things like that, you've also got to understand that since the time of 1916, when many of us believe that slavery started in this country, they've always been connected to us by the hip. You see, our culture produces, you know, an uncountable amount of income. If we understand that our annual GDP, right, is right around $1.6 trillion every year, which means that's the money that we spend, then we also got to understand that the amount of money that we produce in our culture alone has to be hundreds of trillions, right? Because we're only going to get paid a percentage of what we actually make. And we know this from running brokerage loads as an owner operator or what I get paid as an hourly income as an employee. While they might pay me $40 an hour, right? I understand that each hour that I work for them, I'm generating upwards of 400 to 500 bucks. So if we use like a 10% rule, you know, on what I'm giving versus what I make, and we look at our $1.6 trillion GDP or our available spending for the 44 million of us inside of this country, we understand that we have to be generating at least $100 trillion for, you know, consumer or for capitalist America. And it's like it's not really hard to see when you realize that our music, you know, our clothing, our language, you know, our fashion, it's all like it basically influences cultures worldwide. We've seen this with the entire Wu Tang movement, how they radicalized, you know, the children of the Asian continent, you know, in the '90s, where all of them had Wu Tang, right? You can see it, you know, by the cuisine that we use, and now Asian fried chicken or Asian barbecue chicken is the thing, but they didn't realize that, you know. Asian people didn't know how to fry chicken until the Vietnam War when we went over there and Soul Brother number five started frying up chicken and taught them how to
yeah,
fry chicken, right? Our music and our culture, you know, influences and moves cultures. The problem with us is that as soon as it has a value attached to it, we sell it off to people that are no longer inside of the culture and give other people ownership of the things that we produce. And in doing so, that's how we start evaporating money outside of our communities and leave ourselves in a more dilapidated position. Like if we produce more, we should keep more, but we continuously trade it away to people that see the value in it because we produce it. You know, we don't see the value in it. And that's sort of like a chef who stands over the stove all day, you know, kind of cooking great meals. But at the end of the day, when he dishes those meals up, he's not really hungry because he's been taking bits and pieces of it all goddamn day. So he'll dish it out, and regardless of how great it is, his appetite for it's kind of been lost. And this is what happens to us. It's like we've taken for granted what we produce, right? Because we don't understand the intrinsic value of it. So we trade it away for, a small portion of what it's actually worth. And in doing so, we continuously weaken ourselves. At some point, we've kind of got to stop pointing the finger at others, because what we recognize is that as long as I'm doing that to somebody else, I'm also pointing back at myself, three times the amount. And it's like we have to be accountable for the situations that we are in just as much as we point the fingers at people for what has happened to us in the past. If we know what happened in the past and we've learned from that past, at some point we've got to start to rectify the situation and the psychology that keeps us rat racing and hamster wheeling, into these, because we're not forced to be in this position by anyone anymore. We're choosing it for ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think music too. The music that's out here now. Back then, it's talking about getting some money, getting some money, probably messing with some females. So now you got a generation full of entrepreneurs and babies. Now they talking about drill music. Now we got the highest crime rates in Chicago, the highest crime rates in Philly, highest crime rates in Baltimore. Why? It's because like what you said, the music influences the culture. And
Sure.
when do we like? I don't. It.
And we don't understand that because we don't own the money. Is like, eh, the one thing about us is that if our numbers become too great on this power by sheer, numerical force alone, we become a dominant, and everybody else tends to get bullied out of the way, where there'd be no real way to limit our vote, if you will, right? Because 13% of a population, is not that great a number. But when we start to look at the amount of us that have died, through self-inflicted homicides, or through abortions or whatever, our population is supposed to be double or triple what it is now, right? But if we understand that global depopulation and keeping the people called or in check, numerical limits their force, we understand why outside cultures will say, hey, I'm not going to sponsor, or I'm not going to promote or market, a conscious rapper about Common talking about love, because love creates babies, right? More babies that y'all produce, it becomes a threat to my global numbers, because we aren't producing babies naturally, right? And the way that y'all produce babies, there has to be systems put in place that prevent that. And through music, we get an influence that says that I'm going to slide on my op, or I'm going to slide on some nigga. And that's the problem with even using the word nigga in itself, because as long as I view you as that, and the definitions of it meaning ignorant and low value and low worth, you know what I'm saying, to take your life means absolutely nothing to me. But I also understand that under a system, again, of capitalism, a man dead that produces nothing is more valuable to this system dead than he is alive, right? Because now, your police are getting overtime hours, your forensics teams are getting overtime hours, your media outlets are getting overtime hours by perpetuating a narrative and having reporters on the street constantly and habitually to continuously report this. So it's like we just don't understand how the psychology of us has been played against us, because we've been locked into a project or the project so long and had so many tests ran on us from the outside that we never really realized that in these situations and in these tests, we've been used as the rat. And there's a group of people that are standing outside of us looking at us, and they basically classical conditioned us, right? Which means that I can prevent, or predict what it is that you're going to do based on the things that I place inside of, your neighborhoods. And these are called positive and negative reinforcements, right? See, there was a Russian scientist, I believe, in 1953 named Kisovi Pavlov. I might have screwed up the first name, but the last name is accurate, Pavlov, where he recognized that what he was trying to do is to get a dog to salivate, right, to start slobbering. And what he
Mhm.
did was he would offer this dog a piece of meat, right, and ring a bell, right? And while offering this dog a piece of meat and ring a bell, he recognized that once the dog started slobbering, he would give him the meat, right? But eventually, if he took away the positive aspect of that reward and just started ringing the bell, the dog would associate that sound with the meat and automatically start salivating, right? Then that's called classical conditioning. So we recognize in our community that for the most part, all studies in science are done to understand people, not necessarily the animals, right? And this is what happens in our culture. If I start to associate money and wealth and drilling or sliding on somebody, you know what I'm saying, with the securement of this resource that we believe we need, fiat money or whatever, and we attribute that with sliding and drinking lean, right? Then that becomes the positive and negative aspect of classical condition. But now that I have these two things in your face or whatever, if I remove the reward of money, you know what I'm saying, all I really got to do is give you the drug, you know what I'm saying, and give you the lean that comes along with it, and you're still going to carry out the same action, which means the, you know what I'm saying, the destruction of another one. And this is just how it works on us. The psychology and the way that we move has been studied, you know, for so long that everything we do is like they know, and it's like until we understand these things, there's absolutely no way to correct it. Like Neely Fuller Jr. says it, that until you understand racism in its very, very root, everything that you think you know will confuse you. And that's what we have going on, a lot of confusion and a lot of the people perpetuating, you know, self-destruction in order to maintain, you know, our own domination.
That man, that just brought some, because you when you think about what you just said, is more than right, because you got people that's like, okay, say us as truck drivers, like you say, you went around over the road. I go around over the road, but I found something in going over the road is all of this stuff that's going on in these urban areas, bro. It's not by coincidence. I go to your
It's a
neighborhood.
process.
Yep. I go to your neighborhood. I'm pretty sure it's like my neighborhood. You go out to
Sure.
LA, and the one thing that we have the upper hand in is we can vibe with each other. Like you said, they watching us from the outside of the box. So me and you are talking from the outside of the box. So we can get like minded people, and this is what they scared of. The people that's outside of the box looking in. They scared of me and
Yeah.
you getting together because their mission was to divide and conquer, which they do with the music and all of that. But if we looking outside of the box, and I'm saying, look, bro, let's do this podcast right quick, and we're gonna put it in front of 1,000, 2,000 people. We might catch about two or three of them. They might get on our type of time. They don't want that. This is what
Right.
social media has brought together, man, and I'm glad that it's people like you that has a voice, and I'm glad it's people like other. You got 19 Keys, you got Wall Street Trapper, you got EYL, all them guys over there. They doing their thing, bro. And it's like if we keep doing this snowball effect,
That's exactly what it is, bro. Because see, power is infectious. It's addictive, you know. Because and I say this all the time, right? And I think I may have said it to you that to be an addict isn't, you know, necessarily a characteristic of individuals. Like an addict, you know, to be addicted to anything is human nature because we understand the chemical release in the brain that keeps people going back to these cells, right? So anything that you can find that has that chemical release, that forces that chemical release in your brain, ultimately has the capacity to be your new addiction, right? When it's a negative addiction, you know what I'm saying? Or when it's negative or detrimental to you, they call it addiction. When it's positive, constructive, and it builds, they call it a passion. But at the end of the day, it's the very same thing because it creates that same chemical release inside of your brain that makes you feel really, really good. Right? A businessman is absolutely an addict, especially a high level, high earning, very, very successful one. Closing that contract is like hitting dope.
for
You
sure,
know what I'm saying?
for
Makes him
sure.
feel great. This is why he jumps on his desk and yes, yes, that's a
Yeah,
dope hit, right?
yeah,
But
yep,
we don't understand. We don't understand where the origins of the word dope comes from. It's dopamine. This is the feel good hormone or chemical inside of your brain. You know what I'm saying? They just shorten the word up to make it sound like it's really, really bad and attribute it to a negative thing. But what it is the feel good pleasure center, the chemical, you know, situation in our brain. Anything that I do that, you know what I'm saying, makes me feel great. causes this chemical release in my brain, and I can become addicted to it. And this is how we start to combat some of the systems, in our neighborhood that have driven us to start doing negative things to, get this release. It's like you have to find a more positive addiction for people. For me, it was history. You know what I'm saying? Well, like I say, reading and history gives you wings, right? When you start reading and you just imagine yourself in Timbuktu, or you imagine yourself in Persia, and you start to envision these things. It gives me a real chemical release that I get high off, which is why I know the things that I know, because I kept running back for more. I
Yeah.
kept running back, chasing that dragon. You hear me? And that's just why it is that I know some of the things that I know now, because as much as I know that made me feel good, I want to know some more to make me
Some
feel
more.
better.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? I'm an information junkie. It's no different than the person that's out there that found a more negative way to get that release. But at the end of the day, all humans have the capacity to be addicts. You know what I'm saying? What is it you're gonna use to do that? Is it gonna be negative or positive?
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes us some searching and some exploratory investigation in order to find a positive outlet or a positive endeavor that finds it. But it's out there for all of us. And once you find something positive that creates that passionate, characteristic in yourself, stick to it because you have the capacity to be great at it.
So with that being said, we are naturally 80s babies, right? Do you
Hmm.
think we are a product of that era? And why do you think that? Like, because you got some, you got the good and then you got the bad, but you have to make that transition. I want you to explain it though, because you get down into the details and the fact of you know.
Yeah, well, the original question, right, as it was posed, is like, as 80s and 90s babies in the Reagan era, are there any pros and are there any cons? And I can tell you there are very, very few pros. So I'll address the pros further of Reagan era and the war on drugs, which we know is really the war on black people. The only thing after all of my investigation that I could find to be positive about the war on drugs and the crack epidemic laid on us by the CIA, is one, the use or the indirect usage of crack cocaine in all of our families, in a sense, merged us as a family and act like a polymer, to where every weekend when our moms, uncles, aunts got paid, they were all grouped up together in that bedroom, so all the kids of that generation knew each other. And as soon as one person started to get clean, we realized that they were no longer around, and that family member or that cousin that we used to hang out with was no longer around. So in a sense, the crack epidemic kind of act like a merger or a polymer that kind of glued us together as families, right? We also understand that the resiliency that it fostered into the minds of people who didn't have resources in order to eat. In a sense, it made us famine proof. It
Mm,
made us absolute undestructible warriors, right? You can't fear me out of the grocery store not having anything, because there's been, weeks where I've been in my house and there's been nothing in the counters, but I've seen my mom make an entire meal out of oatmeal and out of toast and out of syrup, where I survived the next day, right? So we're an incredibly resilient group of people because of these things that were laid on our neighborhood, right? And when we start to speaking about the curses of the crack epidemic, one, it destroyed populations, right? The infant mortality rate at that time was one that was so great that we still haven't recovered our numbers from it. At that point in time, we were 13 or 14% of the population. Today, we're still that. But we also understand that with that infant mortality rate, what came from that, or what caused that, was a poor food, you know what I'm saying, or unnutritious food or eating habits, right? Because we couldn't have, or we didn't have access to, the more expensive foods, because wealth was being depleted from our neighborhoods, right? If I'm spending, this amount of money on a resource that at the end of the day is transporting money out of my neighborhood, then I have to start finding ways in order to make do with kind of what it is that I was given. And when I understand that, or when we understand that there are only really three ways to make money, you know what I'm saying, in any community. You either work for it, you get government subsidies, or you commit crime, right? Because we weren't really working right because of this epidemic, right? It had us all pretty much lethargic, lazy. It created more encounters with the police. So we were felons. We were recent crime and habitual crime offenders. So we couldn't get a job, right? Which totally removed us from the workforce, which means now that we had to beg for it from the government. Well, the government's only got so many allotted amount of funds, right, to siphon into any particular neighborhood, right? And once these funds runs out, right, now all I have left to do is crime, right, which creates mass incarceration for a group of people. But inside of a project or a box this big where I put in so many people and then removed all the resources of it, jobs and government subsidies, what I've done is put these people in close competition with each other, which brings on the rise of so-called black on black crime, right?
Yeah.
Because one thing is totally you can't alienate yourself from the very first law of nature, right, which is self-preservation, first of self and then of group, right? A species will take care of its entire group, right, in the absence of individual strife or trauma, right? But because we've been placed in this world with limited resources that says that as a dad, I have to take care of my son. Now I see you as my enemy, right? Which brings on a whole nother problem. If we're creating or if we're warring, you know what I'm saying, or in competition for a limited amount of resources, your son's stomach doesn't understand growth, neither does mine. And as my ultimate responsibility on a genetic level is to pass my species on to the future, I can't remove myself from that inclination to go to war, even if I have to sustain my genetic legacy. So now you're not just my competition, you are also my enemy because in securing your legacy for the future, you're denying the existence of mine, right? And this is what they always knew. That's that whole crab in the barrel trophy that we run away and say, well, this is a crab in the barrel complex. Black people will never do this and do that, but the original and natural habitat of a crab is in a barrel. So who placed us in this box and who's allowing this to happen? And this is why I also tell black people, it's like you got to start your argument for reparations backwards in the chronological event of things that times happen because people have a tendency to use time as a removal, you know what I'm saying, as a minimizer of guilt, the further you get away from slavery, the less it'll have an impact on people and they start pointing at you, right? But what happened more recently through declassified documents of the CIA was the fact that they actually brought all the guns not all the guns out of America, right? And they were actually trading with the Nicaraguan cartel in order to survive that war down there because Russia at one point in time was actually trying to take over Nicaragua, which was a national security threat. And they recognized that if Russia actually took over Nicaragua, it would put Russian ballistics in close capacity of goddamn American soils. And they could start launching ICBs right from Nicaragua and knock California off the goddamn coast. So the CIA started sending guns down there. And what happened is they were trading for cocaine, which is why they were sending them all up to Chicago. And when we start looking at the logistics of Chicago, we understand one thing about Chicago's highway system is that off of 59 or 89 or whatever it is, it branches out to every other city of the goddamn country. And this is how 98% of all of the cocaine that was ever brought into the American continent was brought in by CIA. And you can pull this up in their web base, of or declassified documents, and this is why we got to start saying that indirectly, every single black person in the American continent or even worldwide was affected by crack cocaine. And because it was systematic and because it was specifically done by the American government, this is a cause for reparations because you destroyed an entire community of people in doing so, right? And this is why we have to start our argument for, restoration payments or restorative payments backwards because the more relevant it is, the more I can prove it, the more painful it is, and the more impact that it has on culture. Now, 50 years from now that we're understanding financial and group economics, if we're allowed to pull ourselves out of that hole and make no mistake, you and I are the generation after the epidemic that was supposed to wipe us out and do to us what slavery could, right? But now we're getting this under.
Which was, he was talking about divide and conquer and All of these things, and that was in the '60s. 20 years later, we got the crack epidemic. Then 30, 40 years later, we got this social media thing. And like you said, what it's done is it made us resilient, the chosen ones, right? Like, because you still
Hmm.
have people that they don't understand the message. They don't know what's going on. They using social media for entertainment purposes. But me, you and I know what's going on as far as we can use this platform to empower our people. So, and that's what we doing, man. We doing that, and it feels good to be able to sit down and we don't know each other from a can of paint, but our
But we
struggles make
do.
us,
But,
yeah,
but
make
we
us,
do.
it make us connected as brothers. You know what I'm saying? As brothers. So like you said, instead of saying "What's up, my nigga?" No, we ain't doing that. Peace, God. It gives you power. Peace, King. Peace, brother. How you doing, brother? So they
It
can
gives you
see
value.
us. Yep. And it feels powerful when you say that to another black person because they be like, oh, what's up, bro? He gonna smile at you. You know what I'm saying? Or it gives the other person power, man, and you can see it. So I feel like we on the right path, man. We on the right path for real, man. We on the right path. Um,
Yeah,
as far as the questions, we've been running through them, bro, for real. Organically though, for real.
yeah.
We got like hour and 11 minutes in. Um, my guy over here, he he look like he doesn't know. I want to do a part two, bro. Like for real, like we getting wrapped in. He gotta go. I know I gotta take my dad to the airport so he can go back to Detroit. And but yeah, anything you else you want to cover, bro, before we click off?
Well, no, I mean, it's like one is like I'm always down, to expand the conversation, man, and speak about whatever it is that we got to speak about in order to further the agenda. But I think at the end of the day, you're 100% correct that we aren't, ununified, we're unorganized, and in using certain media platforms in order to spread this message is the greatest way in order to bring everybody into the same mindset, whether it be, sharing information or where we get this information, like certain books, which is why I post books, at least every week I try to, because I understand that if our mindsets are in unison, then at the same time, our actions will have to be you know. So at the end of the day, it's just that, man. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's like I appreciate the opportunity to run my mouth. It's like obviously I could do it for a whole day and a half and still have more to say. So,
It ain't running your
yeah,
mouth, bro. Everything you say, bro. I swear I'm looking it up because I know you right. 10 times out of 10, like, look, man, look this book that he just said. Yep, they can't ban us off here, bro. They can't do it. We already
yeah.
now we connected. That's what they don't. As far as TikTok, I feel like it's a lot of guys on there, man, that got valuable information. They want to ban that because it's like you could cause something crazy, but
You you could call, yeah, you
we
could
not
totally cause, an U-turn in the system, man, and start to create a group of rebellious people if they were to come into the information of what's happening to us all, not even on a racial level, but on a social economic level, right?
mm-hmm.
Because in a sense, this is what, elites even fear, like, the poor becoming aware of how they're being kept poor, with a mindset of poverty. And it's like we understand that poverty is a mindset. It isn't really a position because the thinking man can pull himself up out of a hole 1,000 times. He can lose it 999 times, and 1,000th time he'll be able to pull himself up out of the hole with appropriate information and direction. And it's like once we understand that, it's like we also understand that the greatest fears of the elites is keeping us divided, which is why the book that I'm going to recommend for you to get is one called The Fourth Turning. And it's basically a book that tells you how history repeats itself in 40 to 60 year cycles. And every time you see black communities come into an elevated level of consciousness or awareness, there's always, an outside force that presents a wedge, 40 to
mm,
60 years ago. Today, was the end of, Dr. King, the Montgomery bus boycott, and the rise of the Black Panthers. What come after that was the crack epidemic. That was the divisive tactic used to keep us from focusing on a greater agenda. Today, what we see online is this black man, black woman beef, right? Because once you start to put black men and put black women in beef, you have essentially attacked the black man's greatest pride, and he has no other uh, option but to address the problem that's happening to his genetic opposite. Because at the end of the day, it's like I tell her, regardless of who this man is, the one undeniable truth is that all men in all society and everything they do outside of their decompressive hobbies, like hanging with their friends to play PS3, is geared toward attracting a woman in order to secure his genetic legacy. You get a haircut that isn't to look good for yourself, you know what I'm saying? That's to look good for her. You get a brand new car, you call it a midlife crisis, but that isn't necessarily, you know what I'm saying, for you. It makes you feel good, but it attracts her. You know what
For
I'm saying?
sure.
You gain money, you get a great job, you know what I'm saying? You get a great place. But what is a great place? You know what I'm saying? What is this great nest that you've created, right? If you don't have a woman to bring your seed into that house, you know what I'm saying? So basically, a man that doesn't want to be with anybody, you know, or doesn't look for a relationship, he can be relatively comfortable in a house with a couch and a TV and a telephone. I don't need nothing else in that joint. But once you start to make it an actual nest, right, this is the securement of a domain and a domicile in order to attract your genetic opposite, in order to do one thing that we cannot remove ourselves from, and that is to secure a genetic legacy for yourself. These are the problems that we have, is that most of us have become so religiously indoctrined, right, that we don't understand that God doesn't dwell in heaven, right? God doesn't dwell in hell. He finds the equal medium in between, and he straddles the line where he can be great or he can be bad. You can build or you can destroy, depending on what a situation calls for. And at this point in time, for us, we kind of have to descend back into our more animalistic nature and understand that at the end of the day, genetic survival is what racism is about. Securing
Mm,
your genetic legacy into the future, you know, and if you're unable to do that by way of natural selection, you will be exterminated. There are groups of people, you know what I'm saying, that are no longer present on this planet because they didn't realize, you know, what it was to be an actual species on this planet, because we've been indoctrinated in believing that after this life, yeah, there's a heaven for me, but there's a heaven for me in the physical life also. I just have to create it for myself.
yep.
So that's
We
it,
can
bro. You know,
we
appreciate
can
the
make
platform.
dang man, you know we gonna go we could go all day, man, but it's definitely gonna be a part two of this, man. I feel it. It's a couple things that it's probably only one other thing that we didn't go over, and we had picked that back up some other time. Um, Man, I appreciate you coming on this platform. This is
It's
our
my pleasure, bro.
platform. It ain't just this platform, it's our platform because we coming together and we, empowering each other, and the people that's looking from the outside in, man, I know they're gonna feel empowered by this episode, man. I appreciate you for blessing me with your presence and your
Bro, it's
knowledge
my
on here,
pleasure.
man.
My pleasure, bro.
Yep. And this the 18 Willing Podcast, man. Episode 17. It is what it is, man. Y'all see what's going on, man. It's black love, man.
Always.